Hey guys, welcome back to Pet 2 Adventures. Today we're going to be working on a Chevy 350 S-10 motor.
Alright, y'all. So on today's episode, guys, we're installing our power steering pump right here. And we're gonna get this assembly mounted onto the engine block. We're gonna go ahead and change our housing, our thermostat housing out to the one that comes straight out because it's gonna interfere with the other one. Then we're gonna look at putting the flywheel back on the engine so we can put our starter on. Maybe put our spark plugs on. And Mr. Red's gonna be doing most of that. And while he does that, I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna clean up our transmission. We got our 4L60E here. We're gonna change out the rear seal. We're gonna pull the pan off, change out the filter for it. We'll change our front seal out. Get this all cleaned up. Get ready to button up to the back of that engine. So we got a lot to do today. So let's get to it, guys. All right. So I lost my helpers. So right now I'm installing this bracket here. That's gonna help me be able to lift it up later. So got my studs in there and down there. I'm gonna just go ahead and tighten them down now. There we go. Got them two on. Now I'll be able to run my chain up and over. I gotta find one for the back now. I should have some more. One similar that I'm gonna bolt up to the back of the head somewhere back here. Or I can lift that motor up because I don't have the fancy plate like everybody else. One day I'm gonna make me one. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead, pull this thermostat housing off, put the other one on, and then we'll see about putting that AC compressor on. I lie. We're gonna pull this thermostat housing, swap it out. Then I'm gonna go look around, find that bolt for the back, get this lifted up. That way I can get it off the engine stand so I can put the flywheel on. Once I get that flywheel on, then we'll mount our starter. All right, y'all. So got the old thermostat housing off. Put this new one on. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it down. And that should fix us up now that it's coming out the top. Should give us plenty of clearance for when this AC compressor is on there. Alright, that's on. Done with that. Should give us plenty of clearance. I found my other little bracket, put it on the back of the head there. Now I can see about getting it up and off of that engine stand. That way I can we'll put that flywheel on and then put the AC compressor on. And then we'll put our starter on. So let me get this thing lifted up and off that engine stand. So we got our engine up in the air. Now we can set our flywheel on. Yeah, I know I didn't paint the back of the motor. Ran out of paint. You ain't gonna see all that anyway. So now what we'll do is we'll clean this up real good, get that surface cleaned up, and then we can mount our flywheel on there. Clean that surface up real good. Alright, put it back on. Line up the little dial pin. Now we can put all our little bolts on. Put a little Loctite on each one. Now that we got our flywheel on, now we're gonna go ahead and put our starter on. Alright, y'all. So got our flex plate on, got it torqued down, got our starter on, got a good gap. We checked our gap there. It's good to go. Got it both got the bolts torqued down. I think it was 35 foot-pounds. Got our wire running to our alternator down to the starter. All that's in place. So getting somewhere. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and just put my spark plugs in place just to help with moisture from getting up in there. And it'll be a little easier to put them on now than once we get them headers on there. So we'll see what that does for now. So let's go ahead and get started on that, and then we'll look at bolting the air compressor on. I gotta find me a cap for that. I should have plenty lying around here, but we're almost to the point where we can go ahead and get it stabbed onto the transmission, get it out the way, and then we'll get our S-10 off the trailer over there and roll it off and break it down. So, but one step at a time. So let's go ahead and get our spark plugs on and we'll go from there. All right, guys. So we got this. Just went with some cheap Bosch Platinums. Let's see how they do for now. After we get it started up and we're running a little while, we'll pull them out and we can see what they're looking like. See if we need to go with some hotter plugs, cooler plugs. We'll be able to tell all that once we actually get it all fired up. But we're just gonna go ahead and set these in place. It'll be a lot easier to do it now than once them headers are all up in the way. All right, one side down. Get our other phone going to the other side. Got that done. Now, like I see, I need to find my dipstick tube and get that stuck in there. For our water temperature sensor, we'll pull that off of the engine that we're going to be pulling out of the S-10. We'll stick that in there. We got our all pressure sensor. We got the fitting back there, but we're going to be using the sensor off of the truck. That way we can be able to use the dash, the gauge cluster that's in the dash. So I still got to find some bolts for my water pump here. I don't know what I did with all them, but I should have 4 bolts for there. I may have to run to the. All right. I'll have to probably go to one of our hardware store, get some bolts for that. I gotta go rent the tool to be able to put the pulley on for the power steering. Look around, get me a cap for that. We'll put our AC line on. Our AC compressor on. And that should be it, man. We still gotta get that transmission done. We're gonna try to get that done today. But that's what we're looking like, guys. Coming along. Getting there slowly but surely. There's a few things we're gonna take some chances on, guys. I've been reading up a lot on how to break in that cam properly, being that it's a flat tappet, and I shouldn't have put them springs on just yet. Supposedly what I should have done was left the factory springs on just to do the break in for the cam, then come back and put them heavy duty springs on there. But we're gonna take our chances and run with it like that, see what happens. Hopefully it'll break in, man. We'll see. If it does mess up, we might just bite the bullet, spend the money, get us a good roller cam instead of a flat tappet. But slowly but surely we are getting there. Hopefully this alternator works. Same with the starter. It's about the only 2 things that are used that we're going back on with. There's a brand new power steering pump, and then we're gonna have a brand new air compressor out the box. So hopefully those 2 work. Just to try to save a little bit of money. We're trying to do this as cheap as possible, but at the same time, we've done put so much money into this that we're close to, I don't know how much just in the engine, but we're about $6,000 total with engine, radiator, all the hardware, the mounts, uh, shifter, the hardware to be able to run that 4L60E, because this is a carbureted engine, we're not running a computer. In order to do that, we had to get some type of different wiring system for that. So that was pretty expensive. But altogether, we're about $6 grand in right now, and I still have to get the oil cooler lines, transmission cooler lines, radiator hose lines, heater core lines. I mean, the whole 9 yards. But we're gonna see what we can use out of that other truck. Hopefully, we can make some stuff work on here. It's gonna be like Frankenstein's monster in here. Once we get to that stage, I'm ready for that. I'm about tired of rebuilding this engine, so I'm ready to get to some fabrication work on the S-10. Get that going. All right, y'all. So trying to install my power steering pulley here. I don't have the time to go rent a puller, so I'm gonna try some homemade stuff, see if it works. And if it does, it might help you out from having to go rent a tool. I done lost my ratchet. There it is. What I got here was I slid my pulley on in place. All right, found me a threaded bolt. Take it off so I can show you. I threaded my bolt into the pump. I just got a short socket that fits right over the lip to be able to push in, and a nut. Basically the same thing that the rental tool is. So the rental is just a bolt that you screw in, and then it has a piece that fits over in this little groove to hold it in, and you just turn the nut and it pushes it on, compresses it. So I'm gonna attempt to do the same thing, just with some bolts ahead lying around. You just find a bolt that fits into the threads, find your nut that fits on it, short socket to where you can have some thread. And I'll get it started a little bit. And then to keep it from spinning on me, I'm gonna grab me a pipe wrench and just try to hold some backup on there without tearing everything up. For that, I'll snap the dang bolt off. One of the two's gonna happen. There we go. Alright, so my socket's kind of slipping on me. Yeah. Gotta watch out for that. Need some of them impact gloves. Alright, so now that I got a little bit more thread, I don't know. Let's see. I might just be chewing thread off of this thing. Strip it out my nut or something. Huh? Looks like it's going on there. Alright, so since it's working, I can get me a little bit bigger socket that fits it better. Yeah, like that one. And what do I do with my nut? Alright, that's what I'm gonna spray. Let's see, I got some crawls. I'm gonna spray a little lubricant on there to kind of help it. Tighten it back down. Ooh. Okay. See what we got. Go again. Got some popping going on. I think I was kind of holding myself up there. I'm making a lot of noise there. I'll break it off, see what's going on. I think it's working though, guys. Alright, so it's definitely going on. But I think I screwed up my nut there. Alright. I gotta find another nut. Try it again. And press. Press. Oh, man. Uh-oh. No, that ain't good. Alright, I'm afraid I may have messed up. Alright, so I think the nut I had just wasn't doing because that bolt was in there and it wasn't free spinning, so maybe I didn't mess the threads up inside. So I found another nut and we're gonna see if this one bites. This one seems to. I don't like all that creaking, but I'm hoping it's still moving. Oh, that's what I didn't want to do. Alright. So, good thing is, I broke this one and not my actual. I didn't break off inside, so that's a good thing. Thank the good Lord. The update, guys. Ended up breaking out the impact, found another bolt, put a bigger socket that went all the way around here. Hit it with that impact. Now she's on all the way. So, good to go. No rentals needed here. But that was very sketchy, and I wouldn't recommend it. So, do what you want with that.